Have you ever stopped to think about what really turns a set of beliefs into a complete guide for life? Today, we're diving into Islam, but maybe not in the way you'd expect. We're looking at it as a detailed intellectual framework, a whole system designed to provide answers for, well, pretty much everything. So let's break down how it's all put together.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How does a single belief, a single statement, grow into this massive, comprehensive worldview that touches everything from law and politics to social justice? That's what we're going to unpack today, looking at how this intellectual structure is built, layer by layer.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the absolute core, the declaration. Then we'll see how that blossoms into a worldview called Tawheed. We'll look at the tools for understanding it, reason and human nature, then its flexible legal logic, and finally, how it all comes together as a complete ideology for life. Okay, first up, let's get to the bedrock of this entire structure, because really, it all kicks off with one single, incredibly powerful statement. This is the testimony, or as it's known, the Shahada. Now, this isn't just a simple prayer. It's the core declaration of the entire ideology. You can think of it as the key that unlocks the whole framework. It's the formal entry point into the faith.
Now, this single testimony is actually broken down into two main parts. The first part is pretty straightforward. There is no God but Allah. This establishes that core principle of monotheism, and it's something that unites pretty much all Muslims.
But it's the second part, the one affirming Muhammad as the messenger, where interpretations start to diverge. Questions around the finality of prophethood, like, was his message the absolute final divine guidance? That's where you see different doctrines and schools of thought beginning to branch off over time.
Okay, so you have this one core statement. How does that turn into, well, a whole universe of meaning? This brings us to the worldview that grows directly out of that declaration.
This is the concept of Tawheed. Now, you might hear it translated as monotheism, but honestly, it's so much deeper than that. It's the core idea that the oneness of God creates a fundamental unity in everything, from the natural world to human society. It's really the intellectual glue holding this entire framework together.
And Tawheed isn't just some high-level philosophy, right? It has these huge real-world implications. For example, if God is one, then humanity is seen as one big family, which gives a really powerful foundation for social justice. It also offers a specific lens for thinking about tough topics like human evolution, and even a way to find harmony, not conflict, between science and faith.
So if Tawheed is the worldview, kind of like the map, then what are the tools you use to navigate it? How do you actually understand truth? Well, that brings us to the roles of reason and human nature. Within this framework, there's a really interesting concept called fitra. Probably the best way to think of it is as an internal moral compass. It's this idea of a divinely ingrained human nature, an intuition that helps us recognize truth in a way that goes beyond just pure cold logic. It's a tool that's meant to work alongside our reason.
And, for anyone who feels like they've kind of lost their way or their ideology is a bit off, the framework actually lays out a pretty clear path to get back on track. It's a three-step process. It starts with repentance, then moves to correcting one's understanding of the ideology, and finally, putting that renewed belief into practice through right action.
Now, this isn't all just theory and belief, right? This framework is designed to be applied to real life, and that's where the flexible logic of Islamic law, or jurisprudence, really comes into play. This quote really hits the nail on the head. The whole idea is the need for dynamic reasoning. The legal logic is supposed to be a bridge, connecting these timeless ethical principles with the practical, day-to-day duties of life in a world that is always changing. And this isn't some modern invention, by the way. You had influential scholars way back like Abu Hanifa who were champions of this idea. They pioneered legal frameworks that were specifically designed to be flexible, to adapt, and make sure those timeless principles stayed relevant for every new generation. All right, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. When you put all these layers together, the core declaration, the worldview, the tools of reason, the legal logic, what you get is a complete ideology for life. And it's presented as a total system, one that addresses everything from politics and how to run a state all the way down to your own personal conduct. It's positioned as this comprehensive alternative to other ideologies, like secularism or materialism, because it tries to bring every part of life under one unified framework.
So, at the end of the day, what's the ultimate takeaway?
It's that all these different elements, the testimony, the worldview, reason, and law, they're all designed to work together, to lock into place. They form this one cohesive intellectual framework with a very clear goal, to provide purpose and guidance for every single aspect of being human.
And all of this leaves us with a final and I think pretty important question. In a world that's changing faster than ever, how does a framework with such ancient roots continue to provide a sense of purpose and direction for millions of people today? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this one.